Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Monday, November 15th. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. A 72-year-old male who tested positive for COVID-19 on October 31st and died on November 13th of COVID-19 pneumonia takes the country's death toll from the viral illness to 72. The deceased was said to be unvaccinated and had known underlying conditions. Meanwhile, 52 new positive COVID-19 cases were reported from 178 samples collected on Friday, resulting in a positivity rate of 29.2%. 15 new rapid antigen positive results were also reported on that day from flu clinics. On Saturday, 3 new positive cases were reported from 86 samples collected, resulting in a positivity rate of 3.5%. 2 new positive rapid antigen results were also reported from flu clinics. On Sunday, there was 1 positive case reported from 17 samples with a 5.9% positivity rate. No new rapid antigen positive results were reported on that day. There are currently 12 patients admitted for COVID-19 at the Argyle Isolation Facility. 11 of these patients are unvaccinated and 1 is partially vaccinated. 19 patients have been admitted to the COVID-19 wards at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. 7 of these are unvaccinated and 2 are partially vaccinated. 3 new recoveries were noted over the reporting period. 1,273 cases are currently active and 72 persons with COVID-19 have died. 5,326 cases of COVID-19 and 3,981 recoveries have been recorded in St. Vincent and the Grenadines since March 2020. Despite some pushbacks and criticisms, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves says his government has been reasonable as it relates to the COVID-19 regulations in respect to vaccination for frontline workers. The Prime Minister was at the time speaking on WeFM's Issues at Hand program on Sunday. Responding to the question of what will happen after the November 19th deadline given to public servants classified as frontline workers to take the jab, the Prime Minister noted that there will be a 10-day grace period in accordance with the law, and that after 10 days of being absent from work, a person may be deemed as having abandoned his or her job.
A 10-day period, 10-day working period, that is essentially 14 days, because Lansford, you know the rules under the public service regulations, that if you abandon your job, if you do not turn up to work for 10 working days, that you're deemed to have abandoned your job. So the 19th for all of the public, for the nurses, the teachers and the like, from that day onwards, after the 19th, they would be deemed to have abandoned their job if they stay away for 10 days. And the law in relation to that matter, to those employees, will continue, will apply. The usual laws that if you abandon, you can't come back unless the Public Service Commission in an extreme case says yes, you can come back. If you clearly miss some days, let's say on the 10th day of the abandonment, you decide to take the vaccine and you go back to work, you wouldn't get paid for those 10 days, but you could be charged for misconduct if you turned up during that period for work when you weren't vaccinated. If the job requires you to be vaccinated.
Noting that the rules may differ as it relates to police officers, the Prime Minister, however, noted that a regulation is to be published which puts police officers during the period of the public health emergency on the same footing as other public servants.
The police have a different regime, and the regime deals with after 2 days you can be charged for desertion. You can also be charged for failing to report to duty. There are a series of offenses for which you can be charged internally. That is to say, you go to the orderly room, the disciplinary proceedings. They're laid out I think in Section 17 and Section 20. Section 17 for the set of orderly room offenses, and Section 20 deals with desertion. But notwithstanding those, a regulation is to be published, because it has been agreed upon already, to put the police in this respect during the period of the emergency on the same footing with the nurses, the teachers, permanent secretaries and the like, that if they're absent without reasonable excuse for 10 working days, 10 calendar days, sorry, not 10 working days, 10 calendar days, they would be taken to have resigned. Just like in the case of the public servants and the nurses and the teachers.
PM Gonzalez reiterated his appeal for all Vincentians and more so frontline workers to get vaccinated, stressing that he does not want anyone to lose their job over taking the jab.
When we sent out the draft first of this regulation, was the middle of July, you know. By the middle of November, that'll be 4 months. And then you have a further period under the rules as we have prescribed them. Even after the 19th, you can still save the day for yourself in relation to your job, but you wouldn't want that to be on your file when the Chief Personnel Officer or the Public Service Commissioner considering a number of different things. You understand what I mean? You'd want to show your employer, I'm not the employer, you know. You understand me? I'm only the Prime Minister. I'm not the employer. There's a permanent Public Service Commission and Police Service Commission. We are proceeding in a manner which is very nuanced, very careful, within the four walls of the Constitution, within the four walls of the law. And we are being reasonable. And everybody who knows my position, I don't want anybody to lose their job. But you have a choice during this public health emergency, because remember this, you know, this public health emergency, these rules last during the public health emergency. If there's no public health emergency, these rules then go by the board. They're no longer applicable, but they're applicable during the public health emergency.
Diabetics here are being encouraged to continue their self-care management in light of the challenges being faced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In a telephone interview with SVG-TV News, President of the SVG Diabetes and Hypertension Association, Rosita King, said because of COVID-19, access to health care for persons with diabetes and hypertension has scaled down tremendously. Hence, she is encouraging diabetics to ensure they monitor their glucose level and take their prescribed medications daily.
Visit, I know it is difficult and challenge for some of them. There's a challenge because they have to move further to a clinic. But I advise that if they cannot go to the clinic, they should obtain their own equipment, such like a blood sugar machine and screening strips necessary, so they can monitor their own blood sugar. And if there's any problem with it, they can call their health centers. I will advise them to make sure that they have their prescribed insulin or oral medication, and they must keep at least 1 month supply so that they wouldn't run out of those medications. They need to continue to take their medication as prescribed.
King said daily foot checks for diabetics are also of critical importance in preventing amputations.
It is important that they do their daily foot care in relation to checking their feet daily. That must be done, and there are guidelines. And if they are alone and they are unable to do it and to see, they can use a mirror to assist them. But daily foot care, because remember, diabetics, one of the complications that we are having is that person's low sensation in their feet, and you know what can happen, and we have persons with ulcers and sores, and we know there's amputation. So we're asking you please to do that.
The president of the SVG Diabetes and Hypertension Association is also reminding diabetics of the food that they should have in their daily diet and encourage them to exercise regularly.
Your regular exercise, if you can't do it daily, you can do it at least 3 times per week, but daily is preferable, at least 30 minutes, and there are simple exercises you can do. You can sit on the chair, you can use your limbs. You need to continue to monitor your blood sugar, and that is why it is important that you have your machine so that you can monitor your blood sugar to know what is happening. So these are some of the important that their diet must be a healthy diet and include their fruits and vegetables. And the diabetics should know that their plate should really, if you look at a 9-inch plate, a whole plate, you want half of that plate should be your vegetables if you're eating lunch. The other half should be divided in quarters. So 1 quarter will be your meat kinds, fish, whatever it is, and the other one is for your carbohydrates.
There are 3 major types of diabetes: type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes. Risk factors include family history, the presence of damaging immune system cells, auto antibodies, weight, inactivity, age, and high blood pressure. With high winds expected across the island for this week, Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, Michelle Forbes, is appealing to seafarers to be vigilant and mindful on their sailing journey. Speaking on NBC Radio's face-to-face program this morning, Forbes said that though 15 days remain before the 2021 hurricane season comes to an end on November 30th, anything is possible, and persons should not let their guards down.
As I said, we still have 2 weeks of the hurricane season to go. We can still have every rainfall, November, December, anytime we can have the rainfall. But as we go forward out of the official start of the hurricane season, we want to remind persons that we can have every rainfall in December, you can have every rainfall in January, even though we tend to have the drier months in the beginning of the year. But we remind, so to the Christmas season, the winds tend to pick up and the seas tend to get very rough. So seafarers and seabathers need to really take all the necessary precaution, listen to the Coast Guard, listen to the Met Services in terms of the wind advisories and the rough seas in particular, because we have seen the Coast Guard having to venture foul to actually rescue some persons, and some persons have actually been rescued by other vessels nearby. So pay attention, not because we're going to be out of the hurricane season officially at the end of November. We can still have adverse weather events affecting us.
Forbes further encouraged homeowners to continue to clear drains and cut overhanging trees, that should be trees hanging over their homes, to avoid hazards.
So the homeowners, we have to remember to clean our drains. In particular, we know that we still have a few cases of dengue, and the mosquitoes like water. So you need to clean your drains, basically even your roof, because sometimes they may be blocked by trees or little shrubs in the going in your drain, in your downpipe. So we need to clean, especially around our homes. Make sure the drains are cleared. Make sure that we do not have any water settling around our homes, to encourage the mosquito breeding, because we know we still are living with dengue in this time, mosquito-borne disease. So we have to be mindful in around our homes, keep our drains cleared, we can still have very, very strong winds in December into January, sometimes almost gale force winds. So we still have to always have the trees trimmed away from our homes.
The Seismic Research Center, in collaboration with the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom, will be hosting a workshop at NEMO's headquarters on Wednesday. The workshop will focus on Lahar's modeling and mapping. The NEMO director said that the workshop is part of the UWI seismic team's project in the monitoring of La Soufrière and subsequent Lahars or mudflows.
The Seismic Research Center have teamed up with the University of Bristol in particular to look at the Lahar modeling, and this week we'll be introducing to the University of Bristol different models that the Met Office, the forestry, the physical planning, other practitioners, CWS, they can use in terms of looking at what happens when you have X amount of rainfall in the mountains, what kind of Lahars will be generated. So We'll be focusing on this modeling this week in a workshop on Wednesday. We have Professor Jeremy Phillips who has come in from the University of Bristol. Professor Richard Robertson also will be joining him, and they'll be looking at the Lahar modeling so that we here in St. Vincent and Grenadines can look at the different models, look at the type of rainfall we have over a period of time and how they can actually generate Lahars. So quite a bit of agencies, well, not quite a bit, because in the COVID environment, we only have small groups, maybe 10, 15 persons maximum from the Forestry Met Office, etc., who will be participating in this modeling workshop this week.
Forbes further spoke on the importance of monitoring Lahars, especially in communities in the red zone during the rainy season, noting that this is the wettest month of the season.
There are a lot of deposits that came out of the volcano. It was not as a lot of deposits still on the flanks of the volcano. You have to actually fly over or see it for yourself to see the depth of the deposits that are still left on the flanks of the volcano, and they can be easily mobilized. And because they're soft, light material, even though they look compact after a while, and we can expect Lahars for some time. As long as we have material in the mountain on the flanks of the volcano, and as long as we have rainfall events, we can expect these mud flows to be coming, flows of mud and water coming down. And they're dangerous because they tend to do a lot of lateral spread, and they pull all the materials with it. So you see that, and it's looking like more grayish type of material coming down. So once you're in the river path, and we know we have rivers, especially in the northeastern part of the country, we have to cross these dry rivers to get home or in and out of the community. And it's really important that persons are aware that once you have this type of heavy rainfall, you can have these materials coming down.
President of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, in his message to commemorate Teachers Solidarity Week 2021, called on teachers to work together to overcome some of the challenges they are currently facing. This year's Teachers Solidarity Week is being observed under the theme, Teachers Overcoming Obstacles, Making Our Mark in Challenging Times.
Today, there is evidence that these issues exist, and the SVGTU continues to stand up and fight for our teachers, students, and the educational development of our nation. All these battles have been further compounded by the trauma of threats of mandatory vaccination, the volcanic eruption of La Soufrière, delayed appointments of some of our dedicated teachers, high cost of living, just to mention a few. Despite these obstacles, our teachers remained steadfast and dedicated to quality service. As we reflect on the past and forge into the future, it is imperative that we be resolute in standing united as raising and upholding our motto, hand in hand, united we stand. Let us not allow the vaccination status to divide us.
Robinson said teachers must be saluted for continuing to provide quality education to the nation's children, noting that the results of the 2021 CPEA and CSEC examinations show the dedication of teachers to their students, as they too had to deal with a lot this year, including the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano.
The results of the Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment is a living testimony of this. Furthermore, the CXC results clearly proves that our teachers are making their mark, and the SVGTU salutes them for this.
The SVGTU president assures teachers that the union will continue to stand with them and fight for their rights.
The leadership of the SVGTU is resolute in defending and protecting the fundamental rights and freedom of its members, and would do so within the confines of the law. It is this profound reaffirmation that we continue to embrace the legacy of the historic events of 1975 and to carry out the mandate of the membership. It is within this context that on behalf of the National Executive Staff and General Membership of the SVGTU that I declare Solidarity Week 2021 and wish all a successful and happy week of activities.
Activities to mark Teachers Solidarity Week commenced on Sunday with worship at various churches in the different branches. This afternoon, the C.W. Prescott Memorial Lecture was held, and tomorrow there will be a panel discussion from 6:30. On the topic, trade unions overcoming obstacles and threats to industrial harmony in difficult times. The other activities for the week, the majority of which are being held virtually, will include the annual general meeting on Wednesday, a cultural showcase on Thursday, the Solidarity Rally on Friday, and the President's Awards on Saturday. Minister of Education Curtis King said that this year will see an increase in the number of national awards based on results seen thus far. He, however, noted that they are awaiting the final results from the Caribbean Examination Council, CXC, after which they will be in a position to announce this year's scholars.
We have had thus far are the preliminary results, and in fact there are some schools that have registered some queries, and those have to be resolved before we get the final results. Once the final results are in, we generally would be in a better position, in a position to select the national scholars based on the number of persons meeting the criteria for the respective awards. Now, last year we had given something like 59 or 60 national awards. Based on the results this year, that number could actually be a little bit more. So in terms of the numbers, I don't expect it will be less than 60.
The preliminary results of the August 2021 Caribbean Examination Council's Secondary Education Certificate Examinations, CSEC, were received on October 29th and indicate that 83.48% of the subject entries were awarded grades 1 to 3. The corresponding figure in 2020 was 81.86 and 77.33 in 2019. There were 11 schools recording percentage pass rates of 80% or more. The top 3 students at CSEC this year are Kajay Jack of the St. Vincent Grammar School, who sat 14 subjects and obtained 14 grade 1s, Andrew Dowers of the Mountain View Academy, with 16 subjects obtaining 13 grade 1s and 2 grade 2s and a grade 3. Akela Crichton of the Girls High School, who sat 14 subjects, obtaining 11 grade 1s and 3 grade 2s. Police here have arrested and charged Allison Gibson, a 38-year-old laborer of Kingstown, with the offense of theft. The accused allegedly stole several items valued at 720 EC dollars and 60 Canadian dollars in cash, the property of a 54-year-old businesswoman of Argyle. The incident occurred on September 22nd at Egmont Street in Kingstown. Gibson is expected to appear before the magistrate's court to answer to the charge. Police have also arrested and charged Anthony Sutherland, a 46-year-old mechanic of Glenside, with the offense of wounding. He allegedly unlawfully and maliciously wounded a 56-year-old mechanic of La Croix by striking him on the left side of his face with a hatchet in Mesopotamia on October 7th. Sutherland is expected to appear before the magistrate's court to answer to the charge.